last month, I created a system that theoretically allows us to create 720 pieces of content every 365 days. And here is a visual demonstration of the whole content creation process that I call the master content flow. So this is a whiteboard. Most of you guys know about this tool. It's a very beautiful looking tool. So here is our goal: 720 plus pieces of content in 365 days. That is going to be a year. And to create 720 pieces of content in just 365 days, I need to create around 60 pieces of content per month. That makes sense, like 12 divided by 720 is 60 pieces of content. Now, if you're asking me, how can I do that, Shubhankar? Don't worry. We are going to create the flow for that. Now, let's do a quick calculation about how can this flow make this all possible. So let's rub this whiteboard. Let's take an example of me, Shubho. Okay, this is my nickname. Don't judge me. It's just my name. I usually create content first of all on LinkedIn. Then I create content on Instagram, and now I'm creating content on YouTube. So these are my primary 3 platforms that I'm also going to take an example of today. So let's do a basic calculation, right? So if I talk about LinkedIn, and if I do 1 post a day, that's about 7 pieces of content per week, and that is equals to 30 pieces of content per month. Now let's talk about Instagram. If I do 7 pieces of content per week, that's like 1 post per day. That means 30 pieces of content per month. And now let's take an example of YouTube. If I do once a week, that's very possible, then that's about 4 pieces of content per month. So let's do the maths. Here is 30, then comes 30 more, and then comes 4 more. That's about 64 pieces of content per month that we are creating on 3 different social medias. And now, if we consider that we are doing like, let's say, 64 pieces of content, so 64 pieces of content into 12, because there are 12 months in a year, that results to about 768 pieces of content per year. That's even more than 720. Like this calculation exceeded our expectation. Now, before we go into it, you might have 2 questions in your mind. First, Shubhankar, why do we need to create this much amount of content? Why this much? And second, can I even manage to create that much amount of content? Because I have other works like my job, my business. And yeah, I understand you have a lot of things to do. Even do I. Don't worry, I'll put you on game. So let's understand the importance of quantity first. First, let's take an example of a very famous comedy creator. Actually, let's not term him as a comedy creator. He's one of the OGs, Tanmay Bhatt. And actually, he's not only famous for his comedy, but he's also famous in the financial niche, gaming niche, and many other niches. Actually, he has been around for a long period of time. But the surprising thing is this. He has posted over 1,000 pieces of content only on his YouTube channel. And even with the same master content creation dashboard I am talking about, it would take us 20 years to complete that. Can you imagine the amount of content he created? And not only that, he has been around for a long period of time where he has done podcasting, he has been in different TV shows, he has done a lot of shit. And the best part, both of these guys have millions of followers and are the authority figures in their niches. And the best part, their business have made millions from it. And I personally haven't even created 5% of that content. And I've already created a following of over 17,000 people on my Instagram, growing my personal brand and scaled my business to a lakhs of rupees every month, just using content creation and my personal brand at the age of 16 years old. And yeah, I'm just gonna turn 17 October, so yeah, I'm still 16. So now that I think you might know the importance of quantity and content in general, let's talk about how you can effectively, efficiently, and sustainably create 720 plus pieces of content every damn year. So let's start with the master content flow. So now let's talk about the process that we are going to follow, like that social media funnel that we are going to follow. Or we can also change that with the word called flow that we are going to use. Basically, the name of this flow is also known as the master content flow. The process is very simple. It starts out with a content dump. That's basically where all the ideas comes from. It's basically the ideation phase. Then comes short written content. That's like the easiest content to pump out. So that's short written content either on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Then comes short form content. That's like short videos, and that's usually on Insta or YouTube Shorts, but I prefer Instagram obviously. And then comes the father of everything, the long form content. That's what I'm creating right now, and that's only on YouTube. For long form content, you can also do podcasts, VSLs, and a lot of stuff. But don't worry about that, we are just going to talk about YouTube today. As you can see, this basically takes down a system of a funnel, because content dump is of the most quantity. So let's say 1000 content dump, that leads to, let's say, 60 short written posts, let's say 60, same amount, short form content, and that will only lead to, let's say, 8 long form content. And that's basically the funnel that we are going to follow. Now let's understand why the content flow is actually important. So now that we have decided your funnel, let's understand why we have to create a content flow and what is actually a content flow. Because most people talk about funnels, most people talk about systems, but they don't talk about a content flow, which technically is my own word. So yeah. Content flow by Shubhankar Sengupta. A flow is basically a process that takes an idea and converts it into a content and then distributes it further. It's basically the whole process, which usually starts from written content, goes into short form content, and then goes into long form, which you can obviously customize by your own style, but I usually prefer this model and I'm going to teach you that same format because that is the most sustainable format according to me. And the importance of a content flow, if you may ask, is basically that it will guide your whole process. You don't need to think about what am I going to do tomorrow? What content do I need to create? Is the content ready for the next month? You already have the whole process ready. And that's my master content flow. So let's get into it. So the first part of the flow is ideating your content. Basically, generating ideas. And yeah, you can have a lot of ideas at any point of time in your day. And that happens a lot. If you want to learn how you can get ideas for specifically content like on Instagram or LinkedIn or anything, you can check my channel. There are a lot of videos related to that. But to have all those ideas in a single place is what is most important. And for that, we need to create a content dump. For this, obviously, you don't need to use your mind a lot because I have provided a free document called my content creation dashboard where you can use to do your content dump. The link to my content creation dashboard is down in the description. Go and check it out. Basically, what you have to do is all the ideas that come into your mind, just write it down in that template so that when you sit down to script your content or write down your content or shoot your content, you don't have to think what ideas do I have or what topic do I need to think. For that, you just have a content dump session, sit down, think what do you know about, do a simple exercise and just compile all your ideas into a single template. Now that if you have all the ideas in the world in your template, it's time to sort it out because obviously if you have 1,000 ideas, you're only going to use like 700 of them, even less, like 70 of them. So now we are going to sort it out and qualify your ideas. Is it really viral worthy or not? And yeah, qualification of ideas is different for every social media. So yeah, let's get started with LinkedIn first. Now let's start with the second part. That's going to be written content. Now that you have your content dump prepared, where you have a lot of ideas, let's say 100 ideas to be specific, now we are going to start out with the written content part. First of all, we need to qualify the ideas. For example, we cannot create 100 ideas every month. We have to select only 30 ideas that we can move forward with. So let's understand how we can get 30 great ideas from that 100 ideas and remove 70 ideas in total. How can we qualify those content ideas? So first of all, check that if your content idea fits either of these three categories. On specifically LinkedIn that I'm going to talk about today, not Twitter, but it works for the Twitter. It's very same, it's similar. But on LinkedIn, you need to put a little bit more effort compared to Twitter. But yeah, you can follow the same system. The first type is it about my thoughts? Or is it about my work? Or is the content about educating my audience? Is your LinkedIn post or idea that you have created about your thoughts? Is it about the work you do or the work you are currently doing? Or is it about educating your audience? First of all, take this 100 pieces of content and break it down into these three types. Let's say 10 ideas come to here, 20 ideas come to here, and 30 ideas come to here. So that is in total is about 30, 20, 10, 60 pieces of content ideas that you have final. But now all the rest of the 40 ideas that does not fit these three categories, just remove it, just scratch it. You don't need to think about that in written content. In written content, it should either fit these three categories. Now let's take this 60 ideas. The qualification process is not yet over. Before you can start writing this content, you have to do one more thing. You have to set it down into the VAU strategy that I'm going to talk about right now. So now for the VAU strategy that we were talking about, right? The VAU strategy is very straightforward. It basically qualifies in the higher degree. It's like qualify into square. Like that's literally very powerful. So here, V, A and U. So let's understand it. V stands for valuable. A stands for actionable. And U stands for unique. So if your content idea has to be either valuable, either actionable, or either unique. Now let's say there is one content idea you have and you're qualifying out of the 60 ideas that you have in total. Let's say 10 ideas are valuable. Let's say 20 ideas are actionable, and let's say 30 ideas are unique. Now you have to check that every one of that ideas, which idea has popped up in either of these two categories. For example, one idea has popped up to be valuable and unique. That's a qualified idea. Let's say another idea is not unique, but it's actionable and valuable. That is qualified. Now let's understand another one is actionable but unique. that's qualified. But if an idea is just actionable, it's not qualified. It has to be either selected by either of the two categories. And if it's selected by 3, very great, definitely continue it. But minimum 2 of them are needed. Now let's understand what is valuable. Valuable is basically something that people would pay money for. For example, the content you're sharing, if it is worth putting in a course, then it's valuable. So a check mark. If the person can apply that knowledge that you have given them in the next 24 hours, then it's actionable. And if it is in your own style or something that you have created or modified from someone else, it's unique. After that, you will probably have, out of the 60 ideas, only 30 ideas left. And now you can start with creating the written form of content. I'll give you just small tips while you're writing content. I'm not going to tell you how you can actually write good content for LinkedIn, because that's not what this video is about. It's about creating 720 pieces of content, not how you can create it. Basically, just focus on one thing. Make it digestible. Make it as easy as it can be. Write it in the most simplest format. And just remember to have your own brand voice. So whenever you're writing that content, at the end, read it out loud and see if that content that I've written down actually suits your voice. Is it actually how you talk? And that sums up your 30 pieces of written content every month. So that's around 360 pieces of content every year. And that's just written content. Now let's move on to the next one. That's short form content. So now it's about Instagram, short form content. I'm not going to talk about YouTube Shorts because it's great. It's great and all. Post the same content you're posting on Instagram on YouTube Short, but make sure you're posting on Instagram, because that's where I came from. So I love Instagram, like a hardship, right? So now that you have your content dump, and that consists of 100 content pieces, all the content that you made on LinkedIn or in Twitter as a written form of content, do not remove it from the dump. You can recreate that on Instagram itself. That 30 pieces of content, yes, you can recreate it again, but there's a little difference in the qualification process on Instagram. Not very huge. So get back to your content dump and start from there again. So first of all, obviously the VAU strategy is general to every social media. So in the VAU strategy, qualify it with that. The moment it's qualified with the VAU strategy, now you distribute it into 3 different parts. That's the 50, 30, 20% rule. So basically, 50% of the content is going to be long-term content, 30% is going to be short-term content, and 20% is going to be growth content. Now I'm explaining what each of them mean. Long-term content basically means an evergreen style of content that is going to last on that page for, let's say, that's going to make sense for the next 3 years. An example of that would be how you can lose fat is a type of content that would make sense even after 3 years. A person who is fat after 3 years will like to watch that content. So 50% of your content should be long-term content created for the long term itself. Then comes short-term content. This is specifically trends, controversies, or anything that stays for a very short amount of time. For example, in my case, there was a trend that was coming up related to editing, and I created that. It lasted for only about 1 month. It didn't go even like currently it's not getting me any new views, because that only lasted for about 1 to 2 months. But that gave me over 8,000 or 9,000 followers. It's very short term, but it can get you a lot of exposure, a lot of visibility. So 50% long term, 30% short term. Then comes growth content. So what is growth content? This is a little complicated, but most people only create growth content. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Growth content basically is very specific and niched content. For example, if you're in the marketing field, if you, let's say, create content related to Facebook ads, if you're talking about specific KPIs, if you're talking about specific ad funnels, specific stuff, specific things that would only be watched by your target audience or your ideal customer, that's growth content. It's very niche. It will not get you a lot of views, but it will help all the audience that you build from this amount of followers. So let's say you build 10K following from this long form and short term content by getting a lot of followers. This is mainly to target followers. With the growth content, you are going to retain these followers. You're going to give specific, you're going to answer their questions specifically. Now, once you have qualified with VAU strategy, take those pieces of content. Let's say you have qualified 30 ideas, take it into this, distribute it into this format. So that would be 15, 9, and that is going to be 6. So 15 pieces of content long term, 9 pieces of content short term, and 6 pieces of content that's growth. That's basically the format that you are going to follow. All of that you need to know about the master content flow from Instagram is done. And now we can move forward to the long form content. Now long form is a little more in the depth. So it's not just about one thing you talk about. Let's say technically you have created 6 reels, or let's say 6 written content. If we combine that creates one in-depth long form content. So let's say if one style of post or one pillar of post that went viral. So let's say you created 10 pieces of content on LinkedIn, or you are creating currently 30 pieces of content on LinkedIn. And out of that, there are 7 content that's about technically the same topic. And let's say, for example, if you're into the fitness niche, you have created 7 pieces of content that's related to exercises only. Exercises related to fat loss. And you are seeing that exercises related to fat loss, this kind of content has performed above average or went viral on LinkedIn as compared to all the other content. So what you're going to do, you're going to take all that exercises of fat loss and convert it into one YouTube video. And this can be for anything itself. For example, out of the 30 videos that I have created, let's give my example of myself. I create about social media, I create about productivity, and I create about personal branding in general. My content creation process is something that people really like. I posted over 5 pieces of content and it went really good. So now I'm converting that into a YouTube video, which I have named the Master Content Funnel, and you are currently watching. That's the process. So let's say, out of the 4 videos that you need to create, let's say there is LinkedIn and there is Insta. Do not use the content dump here because content dump is very huge, not really necessary. Out of LinkedIn, out of that 30 videos you have created, you take out 2 different styles or topics of content that work and convert that into a YouTube video. Now let's talk about Instagram. In Instagram, what you can do, the best part is, yes, you can take 30 videos and take out 2 ideas from there the same way, same topic, same style of the same thing you did with LinkedIn. On top of that, you can take the Instagram comments or DMs that you get and also convert that into a video. Like literally, that's the best feature on Instagram, as the audience is very interactive there. You can get ideas from comments and DMs itself. And those usually are very in-depth. And that's around 4 pieces of content you have on long form. So I guess that's clear, right? Let's just revise it real quick. You, let's say, create 100 content dump, take it down to 30 written. From that here, or you can take it from here, you create 30 short form. And from this one and this one itself, you can create 4 long form. That's the whole content process. If we calculate it again, that's around 64 pieces of content per month. If you do it again as a yearly basis, that crosses 720 plus pieces of content every 365 days. So the promise I gave you at the start, I'm going to help you create 720 plus pieces of content in a year, that I've fulfilled through the master content flow. Now that's the whole master content flow. Now with that said, how will you continue with it? The moment you have done this once for an year, just continue and repeat it and try to improve your content. Once the flow is in place, you don't need to think about your consistency. Everything is in place. Now you only focus on the quality of the content. Just try to do the ideation, shooting, editing, scripting, and all that jazz in the first 2 weeks of a month, so that the next 2 weeks you can focus on your business. That will make it more sustainable for you. Now with that said, if that's something you're interested in and you really want to grow your personal brand, you really want to grow with content in general in social media, go into my description and book a one-to-one session with me where I'll be teaching you how you can grow your social media, or you can get a chance to work with me directly where I'll guide you to grow your personal brand on social media itself. If you really think that this will help you in general, do not forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share this to your peers who might need to watch this content. Other than that, if you have any queries, any questions in general, you can drop it down in the comment section below and I'll surely answer to it. Other than that, bye-bye. Do not forget to subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.